It's a new month for Year of the Mecha. We're already a 12th of the way through it. Can you believe it?
Wow, time flies.
Yeah. Yep. We got Millennium Cyborg back for this one. I'm not gonna come up with hilarious descriptors for their intros. That was only for like the first round.
That would be a lot to come up with on top of all the setup for the streams.
Yeah, which I guess just to kind of briefly like reflect on that whole bit. I do wish I had like come up with like a better gag when introducing Neff on the first episode. I feel like I could have gone way harder than just saying Garfield appreciator. And I realized afterwards that it's like, yeah, no, it should have been believer in the holy trinity of cringe or something.
I mean, if you come up with something else, you can always introduce her that way next time.
Yeah, man. Well, that already passed. I mean, but like, I feel at this point be hard for me to top time displaced survivor of the Y2K apocalypse, or man formerly represented by the Matryoshka doll of cannibalism. Anyway, what is today's game? Well, you can already tell, I have it in the fucking stream title. It's Gundam Side Story, The Blue Destiny. We're playing an actual, for real Gundam game. This isn't just for original IPs.
Yeah, and I've not heard of this one before. I'm not an expert in Gundam or Gundam games, but I thought I'd heard of quite a few of them at least.
Yeah, I guess, okay, maybe just to touch base on, like, overall Gundam knowledge, because I'm not, like, a huge mark for the series overall. Like, I've not watched, like, I'll fully admit, I have not watched through any of, like, the Universal Century, you know, like, proper Gundam series. But I know, like, enough of like the broad strokes about it, primarily through like osmosis, because of course everyone talks about them.
I've been terrible at actually finishing any of them, but I've watched the movies of the original Mobile Suit Gundam, a bit of Zeta. I've watched War in the Pocket. I've watched about half of 8th MS Team. Not that it's very long, I just often don't finish things. And I've just finished watching Witch from Mercury, the current series.
Right, yeah.
So, and Gundam Wing. I watched about half of Gundam Wing back in the day.
Yeah. And of course, anyone that knows me is always going to stand for G Gundam. Even go as far as to say sometimes that it's the only Gundam worth considering. But alas, we do not have like a dedicated G Gundam game. Otherwise, you absolutely bet I would have like put it on this list.
That would probably be a very wild game. That would be where you would go use all your weirdest gameplay ideas.
Yeah. So at least with like the kind of the general knowledge we have, all you really need to know about first going into Blue Destiny is that this is focused during the time frame of the 1 Year War. You know, like, so at the very least, like, general knowledge of what was going on during the time of original Mobile Suit Gundam is really all you need. Nothing from Zeta onward, or any of, like, the other notable OVAs like War in the Pocket, 8th MS, and all that stuff, like, factor into it. This is squarely focused on Zeon being space Nazis, invading the Earth, dropping colonies, committing war crimes. And then, like, some weird neurotic kid ends up being the ace pilot that turns the tide.
Just your classic Gundam stuff, yeah.
Classic mecha, absolutely. But as the title of the game implies, this is not the main Gundam series. This is not about Amuro. This is a side story. The first of 3 parts in a story known as The Blue Destiny. And I fucking love this game.
Is this an original story for the games, or is it based on a manga or OVA or something?
It is absolutely original. It did get like a manga adaptation later, but this story was primarily made first and foremost for this game. And yeah, we're back on the Saturn, so yeah, I'm also getting refamiliarized with like the controls. Because of like previous playthroughs, like I have like completed save files, which is why I had like the the stage select, unlock. But we're going to be doing all of these in order, all 3 games, because, like, the way this game was, like, developed and distributed, it was, like, kind of weird but interesting. It was essentially 3 episodes of, like, 5 missions apiece. And, like, basically each episode released with, like, a few months of time in between them. In fact, yeah, it was basically episodic gaming in the mid-90s for, like, a Japanese series.
Right, before episodic games started being a
before it became a big
topic.
thing.
Yeah.
And it kind of died away because of the studio that made it a big thing not knowing when to stop.
Right. Was it Sin Episodes that was the kind of...
yeah. The game that was planned to be episodic but did not get anything made past the first episode because it did not do well at all. The sequel to Sin, like that 1998 FPS that no one remembers because that was the year of Unreal and Half-Life.
And that was the same year as Half-Life 2 Episode 1, so I guess, 2006, year of episodes.
Mm-hmm. So, this game is all in Japanese, as you might expect. This did come out in, like, 96 through 97. Gundam wasn't a known thing outside of Japan yet, so there wasn't time yet for Bandai to completely misunderstand how the hell you should even, like, promote and distribute this franchise. Because, boy, they fucked that up so hard, they almost got to a point of never, like, localizing or licensing this stuff out ever again. But, thanks to compiled info from way more knowledgeable Gundam heads than me, I do have, like, a synopsis of all 3 games because there's an entire wiki page on the Gundam fan wiki that breaks down, like, the general story of it, like, per mission. And this starts out basically in the wake of Operation Odessa, which was like a major part in the original Mobile Suit Gundam, like a huge military operation from the Federation to like take back like major resource points, like mineral mines and whatnot that like Zeon had like captured and such.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And because of the success of that, things kind of turning around for the Federation, what we end up having now is basically squads of like mobile suits, like GMs and whatnot, basically tasked with like attacking Zeon like in fortifications and bases on Earth, not just for the purpose of obviously getting rid of them, but like trying to like gain useful combat data from it to like better, to better like deal with their forces.
So are you playing as an unnamed soldier?
We do have a name. His name is Yu Kajima, and is like, and with this particular sortie, which is a night operation on a Zeon base, where they would least expect it. This is the second lieutenant who's been given control of like an early production model of a variant of like the regular like GM, that's like the command unit. So we're effectively leading the squad. And as far as controlling it, I mean, as you can see right now with how I've been playing it, this is a first-person game. We are literally in the cockpit of a GM. That's like kind of a big deal. And it even kind of goes back into, like, the bigger deal about this game and why I think it like, contributes especially to this game, I say, being one of the good Gundam games, is to, basically to kind of... So I should probably, like, mention that, like, a lot of, like, my prior knowledge of this game and how I learned about it was from, like, an old, like, Mecha fan site called Mecha Damashi, that had like a big section of like reviews for different mecha games, pretty much all of them by like the same person who doesn't really like add anything to like the site anymore. The site in general doesn't really get any activity, like because the main people have gone on to like do writing for other places that obviously pay them, like Forbes. But like their reviews and features on stuff like on this game or other like Gundam side story projects basically describes it in a way that I find is very similar to the sort of stuff that makes certain Star Wars games better than others. And it's the sort of thing where trying to recreate like the fantasy of like being in the original Gundam anime, like being Amuro Ray piloting the actual Gundam itself, is like kind of a bad idea because it presents itself like with a lot of like design challenges that you have to kind of get over to like properly convey that, you know? Because Amuro's a new type. The Gundam is like super powerful, like which is like kind of the main deal with like all major like Gundams in any of these series. Like you have your regular mobile suits, and then there's Gundams which are just de facto better in every regard. That kind of puts a damper on like what you can reasonably achieve in like a traditional sort of video game, the kind of structure and difficulty scaling that you can get out of it. So the solution was to make a side story game where, you know, you're not a new type, you're not piloting a Gundam, you're just a dude in a GM.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and because of that, the result, especially combined with the fact that they present it from a cockpit view instead of a traditional third-person perspective, you now, like, get this feeling of, like, you're piloting much more of, like, a real machine, and that you are just as vulnerable as your enemies. Even though I do technically have this set to easy because I want to make sure I get through all these episodes.
Yeah. So it looks like it moves very fast. It's not like a MechWarrior style thing.
Yeah. It's explicitly like a lock-on base type of game. Like, you have to press a button to, like, you know, acquire your targets. Your movement is then tied to, like, where you are locked on. And yeah, because of all my explaining and wasting time, I didn't get a particularly good rank, but whatever, I don't care. And that was, like, basically the first mission. It does a general introduction of, like, combat in the form of we're just gonna do a night raid on a Zeon base when they least expect it. But as we're heading out, though, an unidentified unit is heading our way.
Who could it be?
The Blue Terror. Yeah, like, the fact that this game is called The Blue Destiny, the very significant units in this game are all gonna be, like, have something to do with the word blue, or color, in this case. So, we're just getting attacked by this thing out the gate, and all we can really do is, like, try and damage it as best we can and survive. Just not die, essentially. And in order to, like, do dashing, you would tap the D-pad in the direction you want to go. This is kind of a weird thing, though. It's like, it's not double tap then hold. You have to, like, repeatedly tap if you want to keep it going in a direction. Which fills up, like, that vernier gauge that you see in the bottom that kind of fills up from blue to yellow to red. Right? Also, as far as, like, weapons you have, you know, like, it's standard Gundam fare. Like, we got like a solid ammunition sort of rifle, but we also have, you know, if you hold down the button, you get the classic head bolt-ons. You know, they're not powerful, but, like, I mean, you have infinite ammo for it. You have infinite ammo for all these weapons, so there's no reason not to be firing, if we're being honest. Well, aside from if you care about the accuracy ratings. And if you're close enough and you, like, can very quickly double tap, like, even though it's not letting me there, like, sometimes, like, when you're in very close range and the opportunity's right, you can get out, like, a melee strike that will deal a lot of damage. So yeah, all your weapons, there's no need to, like, manually switch between them. They're all consolidated into a single button.
or a fight that's happening at night on a flat field. Like, somehow it feels very dynamic and...
Yeah. Yeah, and this isn't like for like a game that is at 60 FPS or anything crazy like that. I mean, like, it's early 3D, but it's still like delivering on like its sense of speed extremely well. There we go. Yeah. And other interesting things as well regarding the controls is that because of the lock-on and kind of how like very lateral fights in Gundam usually are, obviously not counting stuff like space, you don't really have situations where you're needing to like look up or down, but you do have a button that like kind of cycles you through different like vertical viewing angles. One where it's like straight ahead, looking slightly up, or otherwise slightly down. So that was quite a terrifying GM. Because, yeah, that's specifically what it was. You know, like, it wasn't a Xeon unit. It was literally the same make and model, but with a blue color scheme. Anyway, the next day, we're at a training exercise in the desert. But it's not gonna stay that way for long. Because not too far from here is a distress signal from like a Gallop. You know, like one of those like big like carrier vehicles under attack by Xeon. Look at those perfectly in sync run cycles.
That saves on calculating the animation several times.
Also fits well enough in the context of, you know, like, these are mechanical things, you know, they're not humans. There's no real need to like program them to have like a bajillion different variations on how like a humanoid would walk. All right. And so, like, interesting thing to note as well, like, with the D-pad, like, this is currently non-lock-on movement, and with the D-pad, you move and strafe, while L and R, like, those shoulder buttons, they will cause you to, like, rotate your view, which has interesting effects as well when in lock-on, because even when you're locked on to, like, a target, you can still adjust your view to the left or right with the shoulder buttons, which, I don't know if this actually leads to it being the case, or it might just be me imagining it, but I want to say as well that, like, because your main rifle, it is a projectile, I want to say that, like, that gives you a bit of extra control in potentially leading your shots.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Yeah, but it's also kind of difficult to, like, fully manage it sometimes, considering... There it is. You saw that very briefly, like a beam saber slash. It's like, it's very specific on timing.
Is it based on range?
It is, but you have to be like very close. But not just close, but it also needs to be timed with like what is essentially like a dash, you know? So you're dashing towards the enemy. Like that. I mean, like, it's something I always, like, try and go for myself, even though it's, like, it doesn't always, like, trigger as reliably, mostly because I think it's just more an issue of, like, me not remembering the exact timing at all times. But it is absolutely a case where it's, like, when you're up close, like, I think it's by design that they want you to be combining it with, like, a dash maneuver, just to make sure that simply activating it isn't going to, like, possibly override player intent to still want to use like the head Vulcans or like or rifle.
Or make it so you just walk up to them and then mash.
Yeah. There we go. Gallop saved.
どんな戦いも楽勝だろうがよ。自分はそんなつもりじゃ。怒んなよ。ジョークだよ。
Oh wait, no, my mistake. Okay, again, this is the sort of thing where like I just realized I kind of misread a part of like what the synopsis was telling me. It's not. We're not saving the Gallop. Like the Gallop was literally like being run by like a Xeon mobile unit, and so we effectively had to like wipe out like the surrounding escorts and like get rid of the Gallop itself, which is just kind of off screen. Like this is like this whole first episode, you know, it's important for setup, but like it is clearly like not like the most exciting that this game gets. I say game because I'm referring to like all 3 episodes combined in this case, because that was the intent. Like this is all just more to get you familiar with like just the experience of what it is like to pilot a GM, you know, just kind of like the lower rungs of like mobile suit combat before you actually get that sort of video game type of progression where it starts to give you new toys and you get the chance to feel more powerful.
Yeah.
So after all the combat data we got from attacking Xeon and surviving a rogue blue GM, we're now at a Federation base along this coast that we need to upload the data to, but surprise, it's now under attack by Xeon. We gotta fight back.
Were we hearing Norio Wakamoto, the voice actor, earlier, or am I just...
Nah, I don't think I heard it. I don't know, it's a bit weird. Huh.
Maybe just someone doing a similar voice?
Something like that. Alright. Let's get to it. There we go. Oh, that's right. There was the freaking... Yeah, that's right. Like, yeah, there were like those 2 red flashing dots kind of along the bottom of the cockpit, and I remembered, oh, right, those flash when you actually get close to like that fuchsia, like pink colored line, which is like the operational boundary of the mission.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so far, like, and especially with like this mission, this being like 4 out of 5, you know, there's not much else as far as like important like story content on this one. Like the mission after this is where like more important things happen because it's the final episode, final mission of like this first episode.
Were these like comparatively cheap?
They were. Yeah, that was my understanding. Though I forget exactly what like the original like selling price in yen was, but okay. Oh, that's...
I've been playing a lot of original PlayStation games recently, and so I'm really appreciating the texture work here and the lack of, you know, the well-known warping and so on that the PS1 has.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Yeah, like not all your weapons are technically consolidated to a single button. You can press the Y button and you toss out grenades. Which, you know, again, like those are very much other weapons you typically would see like in Gundam on various mobile suits. Oh. Got it. Twice in a row. Yeah, that felt good. Yeah, more I'm getting back into this, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I'm remembering again a bit more clearly how this stuff's actually supposed to feel. Yeah. Oh yeah, these, I'll admit, I'm forgetting the name of like these all these other like Xeon units that show up because I never remember any of them beyond just the Zaku's.
Yeah, I only remember a few.
I think DOMs were like the name of one of those, although I don't think these are specifically the DOMs. Come on. And air shot, nice. Yeah, and like, if you end up in a situation as well, like where you end up like, you're trying to do a dash attack at an enemy, but you go past them, that is absolutely a situation where it is useful to use L or R to rotate back to where they are, because that helps in speeding up the like your turn, so that you can acquire the lock again a lot faster.
Mm.
また新しい実践データが手に入ったことに対して喜んでるんだよ。
Yeah, I guess I could kind of see why you thought it was Norio Wakamoto. But no, it's definitely... I definitely don't want to say that like it's him. I feel like in this particular instance, he would probably have his voice saved for like someone like more significant.
Yeah.
Alright, C rank. We're starting to get better at this. I've never been able, at least off the top of my memory, I don't think in any of these missions across the Blue Destiny I was ever been able to like get anything like an A rank. I mostly just like played these for just kind of seeing like how well this game kind of like structures and design structures itself, how it's designed and all that. Because
does the ranking have any consequence to? I mean, there's not like story branching or anything.
There's no story branching. I believe on the third episode, like the final the final disc of like this three-part series is like the ending you get is based on like kind of like the total ranks that you get through that episode. But again, it's more like just extra stuff that you get in the ending. It doesn't result in like any sort of branching. Also, what? Okay, hold on. Weird. I feel like I've just stopped hearing anything from the game, or at least the OBS on my end. That is weird.
I'm hearing the game through Discord.
I mean, are you still hearing anything?
Can you hear me?
Wait, hold on. What the hell?
Testing.
No, I don't hear you. Fuck, it's like something's going on with like my... God damn it. Well,
we were talking before the stream about how...
the absolute fucking hell.
There's been various kinds of scuff. This is a new one.
Oh my god, are you fucking kidding? Oh, now it's back.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Although...
Excellent.
Although I think now something fucked up that like the OBS audio is not outputting. God damn it.
I can hear you on stream.
Yeah. But now it's like... Yeah, that is weird, because, like, the, But like, I take it you're, like, not hearing... Are you hearing the game or not?
I'm not hearing the game right now.
Right, I figured that was probably, like, the issue or something. Hold on. What the fuck? God damn it.
Just discovering new types of scuff every stream.
Yeah, and this scuff started with, I think, like, my headphones stopped recognizing any sort of fucking sound.
Do you have USB headphones or...
No, that's just an audio jack, but do you hear it now?
I don't currently hear the game. But it is coming through on stream.
Okay, that is... Yeah, well, you know, I'm just gonna try and finish up this mission first, because this is like the hardest of the game thus far, against these fucking aquatic enemies that I forget the name of and kind of don't care because I just want them dead.
I don't remember their name, but they do look very cool.
I mean, there's cool looking as they are goofy, which I think is kind of the obvious thing with a lot of Xeon units.
Mm.
Like, they're not playing like the GMs always look. But I mean, it's just one of those little things that ends up reminding you of all things that, despite pioneering in like the idea of like the real robot genre, like some of the design sensibilities is still pretty steeped in like what Mecha had already been like prior in the 70s. I mean, hell, even just the idea with the story like being character focused wasn't a new thing, because that's also what like Mazinger and like its successors also had. Like, yeah, everyone kind of focuses on the wrong thing when trying to like talk about why Gundam was so significant, when the most obvious is like Gundam was the first where it actually approached the robots as if they were like a military vehicle. Like, that's kind of the difference. Otherwise, like, the sort of the human drama kind of like driving it forward alongside like the mecha action was not so different.
Were there any series before Gundam that had a sort of a war setting where both sides were using mechs?
Not that I recall, or at least like, well, I guess how it defines mechs might be a bit tricky, because if you count like the typical Monsters of the Week or something like Mazinger with like the Kikaiju or Mecha Beast, whatever they're called, I guess they're technically mecha in that case. But I guess it's the sort of thing where it's like it's a human versus human conflict is, yeah, not quite that. So it's that combined with like the, you know, like the kind of the military emphasis. Because even then it's like we kind of, if we have like a general knowledge of what Tamino's anime career was before and after Gundam, and even before this, he did a series called Zambot 3, which absolutely demonstrated that, yes, even in Super Robot series, there were, like, genuinely harsh consequences for its characters. Kill 'Em All Tamino didn't come into being just because everyone in Zeta was having a bad fucking day. Zambot 3 literally has kids getting killed, and then the villains of the series basically from, like, I believe, yeah, they were, like, from the future, essentially trying to wipe out humanity before they go on to, like, become horrible oppressors. And just the final episode is the kid, the hero, basically, without, like, the sort of, like, knowledge and maturity of an adult, being tasked with, like, having to reason and explain with, like, an intelligent alien race from the future that knows exactly what's gonna happen, and is like, yeah, even if you do this shit and get the gratitude of your people for saving them, will they even remember you? Like, it throws some, like, dark fucking existential questions for a kid to even have to comprehend. Okay.
I haven't seen Zambot, but you're making me curious. Yeah. I've seen Space Runaway Idiom.
Yeah. Actually, while I'm here, I'm gonna try setting up like another screen share. Like, maybe it'll like play the audio through this time, since I'm at least hearing it on my end through OBS.
I'm hearing it now.
Okay, good. I just had to refresh it. Ugh. God damn it! I'm trying to remember. Did I have the foresight to like make this as like a No, I didn't. I thought I had made like a version of like my view window for the stream, that just has me putting up one of my patented middle fingers whenever something like pisses me off, because I feel like I need that for what just happened. Jesus fucking Christ. But now it's like, oh yeah, I guess story, since we finally finished off that bit. Like, that last mission we did, like, Zeon was effectively attacking that base in 3 waves, and the third and final wave was the entirety of that mission. But the more important thing is like a Medea, like one of the air transports, was actually housing the mysterious blue GM that we fought early on. But something went wrong, and the vessel has gone down along, and most notably, they're being pursued by a blue enemy.
Dun, dun, dun.
Not the GM, another mobile suit that is also blue. There's yeah, it's definitely raising a bit of mystery what exactly is going on, especially since we're now, like, it's not like this is kind of showing what's going on in the 1-year war, like, at the very beginning when Zeon was essentially doing its whole blitzkrieg. Like, this is already after a major operation in which, like, the Earth Federation has, like, kind of gone back a decent amount of their foothold on Earth and are now actually trying to invest more in the technology of their mobile suits so that they can, like, ensure Zeon's defeat. Anyway, I'm actually just gonna exit out of these credits and load up the next game, because I mean, like, there's not really like any other extra thing that's teased after that.
This is a random aside, but I really like the designs of the transport vehicles.
Yeah.
In this early Gundam.
Yeah, the Medea and like the Gallop. Like, they're all, big, but like solid and like practical enough looking, like large transport vehicles, like for the sort of purposes that they would be used for, in a war where the dominant weapon are bipedal robots. And now we have Chapter 2, Heir to the Blue. And this is the part where you'll actually notice somewhat when you start playing this game. It's like, even though there were like a few months of time in between the release of each episode where they were developing it one after the other, you could tell at least that there were like some notable improvements going from like the first episode to this.
Why are we seeing eyes in the...
I have no idea why. I'm sure those are supposed to be like camera lenses behind the visor, but like the reflection drawn on it makes it look like a face. I don't like it.
It looks like there's a guy in there.
Something, yeah. Well, a funny thing as well with like the color scheme, even though it's not like Gundam or Tamino made, like just the blue combined with like the green visors giving me like vibes of Blue Comet SPT Leysner. Alright. Yeah, and because like here's the first thing that is actually genuinely improved. We now have a radar display that we can turn on or off. We don't actually have to like we don't actually have to pause the game just so we can like see where exactly we are on the map. But most of the controls are the same. X is now a more useful function, which allows us to brake if we wanted to like have a more sudden stop after doing a series of like boost dashes and whatnot. So yeah, already just looking at the options, like even they pumped out the episodes for this game like every few months. They were absolutely improving things. And
I imagine after the first one, they had a bit of programmer time to implement features because the engine was done.
Yeah, I mean, we now got character portraits.
Wow.
Yeah, and like a more elaborate like mission briefing video where it's like showing like something resembling like a sort of 3D representation of the map rather than the literal map sprite and just scrolling it around. So we're picking up immediately after where that last cutscene from the first episode ended, where we have to go find the Medea that was shot down and rescue the team and the cargo that's inside. And this is still, we're still on the GM for this, but as you'll find, this is going to be the last time we're actually going to be piloting a GM.
Are we going to be piloting the blue?
Oh, you bet. And it's not just going to be the blue, there are multiple blues. Like, again, like this is like the genius part of this game. They absolutely find a way to like give you a very solid route for like progression going from mobile suit to mobile suit. That like it works in the context of a game better than trying to like force the narrative of original Gundam anime into a video game itself. There we go. Just get over there. Come on. Oh yeah, I think I also just remembered like another funny detail regarding like the use of like the grenade side weapon. Is that I think it can kind of like adjust like the throwing range depending on if you're holding up or down on the D-pad.
Oh, nice.
Because it definitely looked like I was kind of mistiming my... or maybe not. I guess maybe it just looked weird with how I was kind of moving and dashing around, but it looked like when I was holding back and pressing... and then pressing, like, the grenade button that it was doing, like, a high but, like, still short-range toss, while other times it was long. I don't know. It might have just looked weird or something. But doesn't hurt to like... Oh, wait, no, I guess it does work if you're, This is a weird-looking Virtual On port. Hi, Ben. Yeah, there is a bit of Virtual On-isms in this game with it being lock-on focused. I mean, again, we are in a post-Virtual On world. It is by far, like, the most influential mecha game on this entire list. But it is so much smoother playing this game all around, because, you know, you got the radar display if you want it there, and all that. Things are a lot more optimized. Oh. There's the other blue.
That's not GM.
Nope, and that's definitely not a Goof custom. That is a motherfucking Ifrit, and it is coming to kill us. Ifrit Kai, piloted by Nimbus Sturzen, who will very quickly prove to be our rival character. You know, you know, again, solidifying like kind of like the importance of this being like a side story. Just because it's Gundam doesn't mean that every character needs to have their own char. I mean, this is obviously our rival, but Char, this dude is not. He doesn't have a mask for one, if you ever get to, like, see his face or anything like that. And, like, his motivations for things are obviously, as well, very different compared to, you know, what you expect from like, a typical Char-type character. He's got way more of, like, a personal vendetta in the events of, like, what's going on in this game.
Considering how good everything else looks, I think his beam sword look a bit goofy.
Yeah, because they're beam scimitars, or not even beam. I almost want to say that, like, because of the color, that they're supposed to be like kind of almost look like they're superheated.
Yeah.
They got some kind of like energy barrier around them that is just designed to like make them look like they're on fire at all times. I mean the Zaku's obviously have like those axes as like a melee alternative. Oh, finally, reinforcements.
さすがにこれ以上はイフリートの期待が持たん。連邦の青二歳が邪魔しよって。次に会う時が貴様とブルーの最後だ。
なんだ、やつ。ブルーと似た動きをして。
And so, even though it was a different unit, our main character, Yu, actually remarked that like his movements and aggression were very similar to the blue GM that we had fought all the way back in Mission 2 of the first episode. And we're about to see what that connection is. Because the time is now. We get to become the Blue Destiny. Yeah, and see, look at that. We, like, to further add to all the stuff that they added in future episodes, they now have, like these hand-drawn images combined with, like, text and narration. Describing that, yes, the blue GM that we fought many missions back was the cargo on that Medea. You know, we protected the cargo, and the reason it was so important and why it is so aggressive and powerful is due to a special system it holds called Exam.
We don't need to know the details of what Exam does?
The full details of Exam becomes more apparent once we're in the third episode. Because the genius thing about Exam is how it, again, ties back into, like, the feeling of progression in this Gundam game. And how, you know, if you make a game that is essentially, like, that is all about you just trying to be Amuro Ray piloting the Gundam, or any of the main characters in other Gundam series piloting their titular mobile suit, it's like, it's so, like, working on, like, such an overpowered scale to begin with that, like, it's hard to design, like, a compelling, challenging game around it. Now we're at a point where we've gone through the first third of the game piloting just a regular GM. We're given the opportunity to pilot a souped-up GM, and more importantly, what the Exam system will allow for is giving us, like, it basically boosts the performance all around for the Blue Destiny to the point that it's comparable to, say, a new type piloting a mobile suit.
Right.
That is important to emphasize because Yu Kajima is 100% human. You know, and getting back to, you know, we can't be Amuro Ray. And considering the nebulousness in the past of, like, how stuff like new types have been defined in the Gundam series,
yeah,
I can only imagine how absolutely, like, painful it would be trying to, like, come up with, like, succinct in-game rules for what a new type can and can't do compared to just regular humans. And the fact that it's still sometimes, like, a major point of contention among, like, people, either in-universe or even fans of, like, the series, trying to figure out what actually does count as a new type. And just, I think it got to the point where, oh man, maybe someone else can, like, remind me, because I know it was, like, one of the very later Gundam series before they introduced the idea of, like, the alternate universe runs. Like, I don't know, maybe it was, like, Gundam X or something, or F91. Definitely one of the later games, not games, later animes, where I think they bring up, like, the time-old question of what is a new type, but just come to the conclusion that, dude, what a new type technically is and isn't doesn't fucking matter. We're all gonna eventually evolve into new types anyway, that, like, what is even the point of distinguishing it?
New types have a very high midichlorian count.
Yeah, exactly, like, that's the last thing it fucking needs. Yeah, so, yeah, in short, we're not playing a new type. He'll probably, not probably, I can say definitely, Yu Kajima will definitely never be revealed to be a new type. That's why he has a mobile suit that has the exam system, which is designed to boost the performance of the mobile suit for a brief moment to give it like new type reflexes and capabilities. So even if we the players are not new types, we can at least get like a brief glimpse of what that potentially might be like.
Has there been any change to your abilities, or like the cockpit hasn't changed? It's just a standard, otherwise just the same.
Yeah, I mean, like our new rifle is obviously more powerful, but we still have the same like energy, like beam saber. We still got the our side weapon's definitely different. It's not like that grenade that like does like a high toss. It's straight up like a rocket.
Mm.
Oh yeah, and I also forgot to mention as well, like with this particular game and like the various things that were added to the Blue Destiny from episode 2 onward, is that episodes 2 and 3 added support for the Virtual On twin sticks.
Nice.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to play though, because
twin
like,
stick
even
in first person would be interesting.
Yeah, but I think part of what's weird is that when I briefly tried it is, you know, because like the first episode, the twin stick controller wasn't available yet, so you had to play with like a regular Saturn pad. And I think because of just how much like I focused like months back playing all the way through these 3 episodes in order, like I'm so used to how it plays with like the Saturn pad that I can't fathom adjusting very well to the twin sticks. Because what I briefly tried from it, that game actually, when you play this with the twin sticks, the jump input is actually the same as it is in Virtual On. You have to pull the sticks apart to the left and right in order to jump. So yeah, that was our first sortie with the Blue Destiny. We were given actually a bit of a warning from like I guess like from our team about like about the unit, especially in regards to like the exam system, is that it like in the description that's almost more concerning despite the incredible power. No one that has been involved with like the maintenance and like manufacturing and production of this Blue Destiny Unit 1 even knows the full extent of what the exam system even is. And that it is something of like a gambit. Like it is something that if you have it going on for way too long, things can go horribly, horribly wrong. Which is why like when we get exam used in the future, in fact, I think this next mission, for that matter, there's a strict time limit. You know, we gotta go back to old Ultraman rules and the like, where it's like we can only engage our super ultimate powerful form, but for 5 minutes or some bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. It makes it it's a useful trope for story writing.
Yeah. Anyway, we were heading to like the Earth Federation's like California base, but now it is under attack. And basically, in kind of a desperate move to make sure that Xeon, like in the event of capturing this, they can't, that they don't get anything useful out of it. We have to straight up destroy like specific installations. So this is one of those missions where it is like, yep, there it is. XAM system activated. We got like I said, we have 5 minutes. Look how fast we are now. Yeah. This is what all new types were feeling. But we can't waste time with enemies, unfortunately. Like these tower installations for like, I think controlling like missile launches and whatnot, we have to destroy so that Xeon can't get their hands on them or anything. Yeah, and like the way you can tell when looking at the minimap is that it's always like the solid red squares that are the main targets. So that helps. I can definitely tell that like I had like a hard fucking time, like, since this was all in Japanese, not really knowing where the hell. Oh my god, I'm taking so much damage. Oh fuck.
Is it just you on your side?
No, there's like some. There are like some other GMs helping me because I am technically a squad leader. But oh Jesus, I am close to dead. I should not have stood in front of that the way that I did. But also, here's like another interesting note as well, because of like this being the exam system and how powerful it is. Notice how our like vernier gauge is barely filling up now every time I dash. Oh, I think I got it just barely before I ran out of health.
I thought you'd exploded, but...
Yeah.
So there's no way to give orders to your teammates or anything like that?
No. In fact,
Your squad.
the idea of giving orders to squad mates eventually became a gameplay feature that got more and more emphasized as like other Gundam games got made in the future. Like For instance, this is another game that'll be played on Year of the Mecha later down the line, and is probably more recognizable, but are you familiar with the Dreamcast game Gundam 0079 Rise from the Ashes?
I am not.
Okay, well...
Although I can see that it's from the same developer.
Yes, like, it's basically like the same kind of division of developers at Bandai that worked on this game went on to Rise from the Ashes. It was one of the earliest Gundam games that actually got localized, which is why, which is why when it comes to Gundam games, that Dreamcast one is where you see more people that recognize it compared to this. And in that game, you do have, like, an element of, like, squad commands and control that you can give. Alright. Yeah, so we destroyed the control facilities, even though, like, we could have easily died. And obviously, thanks to the exam system, you know, to the point where it's like, Yu Kajima even, like, remarks to himself that, like, he only really pulled that off not because of his own strength. Like the boost that the exam system gives is insane. Now we gotta finish off the remaining Zeon forces that we see en route to the California base.
このまま南に移動し、カリフォルニアベースの掃討作戦に参加してください。ジオン軍のミサイル基地の破壊により背後の脅威を取り除かれ、友軍はかなり This mission,
I'll say as much, kind of similar to mission 4 of the like the first episode, kind of more on the filler side. Like the mission immediately after this is like, it's got like a lot more going on to it as far as like kind of story significance. But otherwise, you know, we're back to just using the Blue Destiny without exam. But we could still kick their asses pretty handily. Yeah, like, this is obviously where, as soon as you get introduced to the Blue Destiny units, is where, like, playing the Blue Destiny game it just becomes so much more fun. Because with the GM's limitations, you're always, like, coming very close or actively overheating on your vernier gauge, and it locks you out of being able to do any further dashes in the process. Yeah. But here, it's like, you know, even though I don't have exam activated, it can still take a while for that vernier gauge to actually fill up all the way.
Even though you're just in a GM, you can turn around very, very quickly. when locked on, please.
Of course, yeah. Again, like, the left and right shoulder buttons are very good in those instances where, like, enemies do get behind you or you accidentally go past them. Like, that's obviously, like, the more reliable thing you can pull off with it compared, as opposed to simply leading shots. Because it is, like... Because, like, when you let go of the button, it does recenter the view back to, like, where your facing direction is. So, it's obviously, like, a lot harder to properly get the, I kind of had to damage my own GM in the process, but whatever.
Are we seeing a launch, like, rail for spaceships in the background?
Yeah. Like, it's also no surprise that even though it's not in this episode, once we get to episode 3, you absolutely bet that we're going to be going to space with this thing.
Excellent.
Yeah. Granted, it's not like some insane detailed space sim or anything. Like, we're not going to get anything on the level of, like, 6 Degrees of Freedom or, like, crazy dizzying, like, angles for, like, engaging in combat in 0G. But it's nice as a detail. Oh, but look who's back. Fucking Nimbus is coming for our head again.
It's our pal.
Oh, man. Still, we're flying through this at a pretty decent click. Like I said, like, these games combined are not very long. Obviously, that's the sort of thing where, like, it might seem like that's kind of a downside, what with how often people kind of dismiss or heavily criticize a game for being too short. But I'd say it was like...
I love a short game.
Yeah. And I'd say it was at least more than fair in this case because, you know, they deliberately sold these piecemeal as 3 separate games and priced them accordingly. Anyway, Nimbus wants a rematch. He's got a blue unit. I have a blue unit. His movements and capabilities were similar to the Blue Destiny. He also has exam. And now both of it is activated on our ends. Go. Yeah, so this is no holds barred fucking duel between
dashing all over the place.
Yeah, between a Fetty and a Xeon, who aren't new types but are effectively controlling units with an AI system that allows them to fight as if they were new types. Yeah, there's a whole lot of dashing around, taking a whole lot of damage, but also dealing enough of it in return. Like, it is exciting. Like, this is a hell of a fun reward to get to after you've, like, spent all of the first episode playing in a GM, and then getting to understand, like, what the Blue Destiny is capable of when you play it in the second mission onward of this episode. And then they're very quickly like, yeah, guess what? Time to fight this asshole on his level. Look at that 3-hit beam combo. Yeah. Said, Jesus Christ, like, all the tapping you have to do for your directions is insane. Like, yeah, Virtual On, this is not. Like, Virtual On, especially with, like, the first game as we saw, like, you're making very deliberate, calculated decisions with how you dash. This is anime as fuck.
Yeah.
But there we go.
I really like the texture work in this game.
It is,
I
yeah.
can't
Like,
quite place my finger on exactly what aspect, but...
Oh no, our head. But yeah, I think obviously a part of it is, like... I think it's like a weird quirk of the fact that, you know, because the Saturn was originally envisioned as like a 2D sprite-based machine, like the stuff that this game shows as polygons doesn't actually feel like polygons so much as it's carefully rotated and scaled sprites.
Yeah.
Which gives it its own unique feel that, like, yeah, it doesn't have, like, the Vaseline smear of an N64 game, nor does it have, like, the floating Z-point problem of floating vertex problem of, like, PS1 games. But by the same token, it's not as smooth or as immediately polygonal as, like, PC games at the time, like post-Quake.
There's no the texture filtering and the colors, like, there's not quantized in an ugly way. They're not blurry.
Yeah. Like if the architecture for the Saturn was, like, better designed and, like, thought up like years in advance, while still being able to produce games that look like this, I really do think it would have been a major contributor. Not the sole contributor, because there were obviously other factors on account of Sega's own incompetence. But it at least would have, like, made the Saturn seem it would probably have been looked at a lot earlier as being like, yeah, no, of, like, the three major consoles, this was probably the better one for 3D. Even though N64 was arguably more powerful. It was a scaled-down Silicon graphics station, after all. Anyway, the result of what we just went through, we did win the fight against Nimbus in his Ifrit, but he destroyed the head of the Blue Destiny 1, which unfortunately is because, keeping with human anatomy, that is where the brain of the Blue Destiny was and was storing all of its combat data. So we effectively lost all of, like, the knowledge that, like, the scientists could have used to further improve it. So, whoops.
All that combat data.
Yeah.
I love combat data as a kind of it's almost like a substance that you accumulate in mecha series.
Yeah. Or just anime in general.
Yeah.
But another important thing with that particular cutscene is that, even though we technically won against Nimbus and heavily damaged his Ifrit, even though it looked like he got away, the Ifrit did eventually blow up later and get destroyed. But when people found the wreckage of it, his body was nowhere found anywhere near it. So Nimbus is alive. He was on that gallop, like that kind of a Land Rover, along with, like, a bunch of Xeon forces, because he's heading towards another important place that has to do with, like, his mission, his vendetta. He's been looking for a particular scientist by the name of Dr. Schlust, which, yeah, I know it's a weird name. Whatever, Gundam names are weird as fuck. Yeah. I admittedly, when I read it, I almost misread it as a more sensible name as Dr. Scholst.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, the intelligence division of Xeon had found the Doctor, and they were looking for him because he technically had defected from Xeon and was, like, the main reason why, like, the Federation were able to develop the Blue Destiny in the first place.
So at this point, do we know why the Blue Destiny attacked in the very first mission?
I think I'll save that for a bit more later, because I feel it's important to emphasize once we know, like, the full extent of what the origin of the exam system is, why it works the way it does, and why it's kind of a wild card. But as it stands, they know where the Doctor is. Nimbus is heading towards this location where there are 2 more exam outfitted systems. So there are 2 more Blue Destinies. The Unit 2 and the Unit 3. Well, no, technically, like, only the Unit 2 is there. But we're gonna get the Unit 3. That's just the other part of this I love. Is, like, you get, like, the power escalation on your end, but, like, after you're introduced to Nimbus, he is also, like, increasing his own power as well. And adds to the whole rival aspect especially good. And then we're gonna load up the final episode of the Blue Destiny, The Condemned. Yeah, let that ominous title sink in for a little. Sabakureshi Mono. All right. Yep, and now this is the episode where as far as additions made to like the technical foundation and like other sort of improvements, like we saw going from episode 1 to 2, there's not as much of that in this game. Like this is way more focused on just wrapping up the story and throwing in like a few like outer space and like a colony mission. Because yeah, by nature, if we're going to space, there's no reason why we shouldn't also be able to go into a colony. Anyway, hey, look at those two suits in the background.
I love that Gundam uses the a real design for space colonies from the 70s or whenever it was.
Mm-hmm. I definitely remember it a lot, like that design as well, from just how, like, Vanquish literally, like, just used that exact same design for, like, its space colony / orbital cannon, because they somehow thought it was important to build that into it. Anyway, time to start. And as you might imagine, just from those 2 units we saw in the background, the Blue Destinies no longer look like GMs. They now look like proper Gundams. And we get the Blue Destiny Unit 3. And it's the last exam machine that the Federation has, so we are being warned explicitly to make sure not to break it. Although, to be fair, I don't think we could really be blamed for what happened after that fight with Nimbus, him shooting our head like that.
The back looks suspiciously flat on that model.
A bit, yeah. I imagine they were made to like the model, like the polygon specifications that they could actually render it in game.
Concentrating the detail in the front, so it's more important.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, this is the exam recapture operation, because we've been given the Unit 3, and we need to go to the facility where Dr. Schlust is with the Unit 2, and make sure that the Unit 2 does not get stolen. But for the purposes of the story, you could probably guess that that does not go according to plan. Alright. And look at these, like, white-colored Zakus, because we're in a snow environment. It's like they actually kind of consider the idea of camouflage, however silly it is, on giant robots.
Hey, if you're far enough away,
I guess, yeah. But I just feel like, probably in a jungle where you could afford to, like, fit proper foliage or whatever. Like, that would be a lot more practical.
Yeah.
Anyway. Nice. Yeah, this... Oh, yeah. Just the pacing on the escalation of, like, your power level as effectively, going from mobile suit to mobile suit. I cannot stop emphasizing enough. Like, there's very good reason why, I think for people that are very familiar with, like, the full history of, like, Gundam video games, not just what people outside of Japan may have been most likely exposed to, why this is, like, so significant and important. It's like, especially now that we're at a point where with this 3rd episode, we're sticking with this unit entirely, and with how Gundam-like it is in its silhouette, it makes it feel as close as you can reasonably get to feeling like you're in an actual Gundam anime, It's like, funny thing, I guess going back to the Star Wars comparison, because I brought it up at the beginning with, like, the sort of design idea behind this game and not trying to focus on recreating you being Amuro or any of the other important anime-specific characters with their super powerful Gundam. With Star Wars, kind of the same thing happened where, like, you don't see many games where it is, like, you as a Jedi, because that's kind of a recipe for, like, kind of a bad game. People can't really seem to, like, figure out, like, a very good, like, absolutely amazing design for it, unless you're Jedi Outcast. But even then, that's only really possible if you're using, like, the real lightsaber combat mod. So I guess the more comparable comparison is like, this is basically the Dark Forces of the Gundam series. You know, you start out just as a dude with a gun. Eventually, you work your way up to being a dude that can also use a lightsaber. And the lightsaber stuff is portrayed fairly accurately. Go.
That very hard to tell what's going on when you've got two white mechs right in each other's faces.
Yeah.
In the snow.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever. It's not too high contrast in general that, like, I don't mind.
No, I think they make good use of of color. It's not as high contrast as Virtualon, but
yeah. Or I think like it's funny. It's a game well after this, but I like when I think of games where like the high contrast becomes a detriment is that there's like a level in one of the Armored Core games, Project Phantasma, where it takes place in a snow environment. And for whatever reason, like the snow is like so white that like it feels blinding, like especially because like it's not like the skybox itself isn't contrasting it very well. Like it's still like a very light color. So it's like it's almost hard to see shit in that thing. Anyway, we destroyed the Xeon units, but unfortunately, Dr. Schlust is dead. The Unit 2's been stolen, and it got shuttled away from the base, so good job.
Stealing away a whole mech without getting noticed is...
Yeah, well, you just gotta make sure that everyone's distracted by the even bigger explosion. You know, it's like... Oh, man, it just reminds me of, like, the silliness when I did, like, the Let's Play for Steel Battalion, and there's straight up, like, a mission that you can do that is technically stealth. And just me and Kaboom were like, just joking so much about, like, the sheer absurdity of, like, a multi-ton mech just, like, stomping through, like, a valley to, like, the front door of a base that they need to blow open with bombs. And it's like, it's technically still stealth if everyone's dead. No one is alive to report it. I feel like it's ultimately like that.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of whether or not they got spotted at all. It's a matter of whether or not they get reported.
Just like in Hitman.
Yeah, exactly. Or Thief, where it's like, oh, if you get spotted, oh, just like drop a flash bomb, get behind them, and then blackjack them so that like you won't kill them instantly, but you'll guarantee that they'll die days later from all the brain hemorrhaging. Because yeah, like getting hit with a billy club ain't that much more pleasant, I assume, than just getting like whacked with a sword. Anyway, now that they got the Unit 2, we have to pursue after these forces, and as it turns out, where they're going is to like a nearby base that they explicitly tend to use that has like a rocket platform so that they can send the Unit 2 up into space. Because, of course, we need an excuse to go to space.
It's Gundam, after all.
Yeah. You know, yeah, because, like, even if this is a side story, there's no reason why they still can't have you do things that also happened in one of the anime, you know? OG Gundam, it goes into space. Where pivotal parts of, like, the climax take place.
Doesn't the name Kido Senshi actually mean, like, orbital?
Maybe? I assumed it was always, like, exactly how it was always translated, which was mobile suits. Because, I mean, like, this is a Japan-only game, and if you look at the box art for it, it actually, like, it actually has, in English text, Mobile Suit Gundam. So, I think even...
I mean, that's how they... Okay, so apparently the word means just, like, mobile in the sense of it's also used it's also used for orbit, but
Oh, I realized I fucked up
a lot
on
of
this
other-
mission.
oh,
I accidentally shot one of like the data centers at this base because like I needed to like protect it while like fighting off like the Xeon forces. It's no worries. We can jump straight back in. And yeah, it's like an arcade style continue screen where it's like you can press start to continue, or you could just mash the buttons to make the countdown go faster and get a game over. It's the Saturn. I feel like because of this being a Sega system, they felt obligated to have something like that.
Yeah, I find it funny when home console games have some of these, arcade style systems, even though I like it took a while for games to get out of the habits and mechanics of things that made sense in arcades.
I don't know. I feel like I could do with like more games having like a cheesy game over screen and countdown.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, I remember when I played Headhunter on the Dreamcast. That literally has an arcade style game over screen every time you die with a countdown. And heck, even if we're talking about mecha games, like last week with Gun Griffin, well, it didn't have a game over screen, but it did have like an arcade style ranking leaderboard that you could input your 3 initials like was an arcade machine. I love that. The arcades are a place of joy, and there is no reason why you should like try and like get rid of that kind of joy.
Be a funny mod for Dark Souls. Every time you die, countdown.
Oh, that would make it way better. It's like, yeah, it's just a game over screen every time, where it's like press a button to like revive, or you just like let the countdown go down and you instantly end it and turn hollow, like full hollow.
Make you have to press an insert credit button. You can continue.
Yeah, and the insert credit button is deposit all of your souls that you're carrying. There we go. Come on. Jeez, these... Okay. Really just running circles around me.
Yeah, literally.
Ah, fucker.
Nice.
Okay. Let's hope that...
It's a good thing there's one building you have to protect. I think all of the others are gone.
I think so. Oh, there's just like at least 1 or 2 still standing somewhere. But I also think... Yeah, I think that was the last one. Yes, it was. Okay, good.
2号機の行き先が分かりました。
よーし、一度基地に戻って俺たちも空へ上がろうぜ。
So, okay, here's the funny thing about this whole fight that we just went through and why we were especially needing to, like, protect, like, the towers at this base. The Xeon remnants went here thinking that there was, like, a shuttle and, like, a launch pad that they could use to get back into space, but it turns out it didn't, and because they got pissed off at the realization, they decided to just fucking torch the place. That's entirely it. Xeon are a bunch of salty bitches. Yeah, but they still found like a shuttle to like get off world anyway. Unfortunately, we have our own shuttle base that we just went to because we can only have 5 missions per episode. We need to get to space at some point.
So I don't remember, like, White Base is on Earth at one point.
Yes.
How do you get... Is it just able to take off, like, and just fly all the way into space? Or did they have to boost it back into orbit at some point.
I want to say it maybe did, or maybe I'm confusing it because I know there's like a scene in the original anime that makes a big deal of like when the white base first takes flight. But I assume that might have been just the case where it was kind of initially like a ground or like low air kind of situation, and flying was how they used it to get across larger spaces after a point or something. Or maybe it was the thing that got them to go into space. I don't know. Maybe it is actually like capable of like entering space on its own.
I'm just thinking about they're still using rockets to launch, but also, you know, do they have other vehicles that can just fly into space?
Yeah. Again, I know just like anyone that's like watching this and just being appalled that I, like a huge Mecha fan, hasn't watched or doesn't know that much about original Gundam. I'm like, dude, come on. I've watched the entirety of the Macross series and like pretty much every major media for Armored Trooper Votons. I have my priorities. I watched a billion other series instead of just focusing on the one same show you people talk about. Okay. Anyway, we're going inside the colony now.
I'm curious how this will look. There's a VR chat world that's a Gundam-style colony.
Nice.
It's pretty cool. You can just get in a car and drive the entire colony, although it's, you know, obviously just repeated.
Yeah. But does it actually do something to kind of like, it sells the whole idea that it is like, you could like see like the other side of the colony in a distance directly above you, that sort of thing, when you're on the inside?
Yeah, the perspective and all that is very, very freaky.
That's rad.
I just wish you could also get in a plane and or like a glider and fly. I would add a lot to the
Yeah, like I wonder how much the physics would freak out if you were to like fly straight up inside a colony and like get to like that center gravity point.
Yeah.
So,
well,
that said, we are not in... Yeah, as you can see, we're not in the part of the colony that everyone would most recognize. It's more like we're in the back tunnels.
Yeah.
But there were also some very important details that were brought up in that mission briefing regarding the exam system. And kind of getting back to how most people that have been working on the Blue Destiny units don't even know or understand what the hell the system is that they're implementing. So basically, the first detail they bring up is that they have it set so that it only functions at 50% power. Those 5 minutes we were given for effectively infinite Vernier and like crazy dash and attack speed was only 50%. But the reason it's kept that way is because the system has the capability to just like go absolutely berserk if it goes higher than that, and like pretty much guaranteed if it hits 100%. And the implication because of that is like, remember when we fought that GM, the Unit 1 Blue Destiny, all the way back in Episode 1?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't done as like a simple exercise. It was actually trying to kill us because whoever was piloting it basically lost all their senses and like died as a result of piloting it. So because of that, Unit 1 and Unit 3 have their like capabilities capped to 50%. But the Unit 2, which Nimbus stole, did not have like the power limiter implemented on it yet. So it can go to 100%. And that's the scary part. Considering how absolutely aggressive and like kind of vengeance-fueled Nimbus's like kind of quest like in this whole series is, because part of it, as you might imagine, is primarily due to the fact that Dr. Schlust was like a former like scientist of the Principality of Zeon that defected to the Federation. So it makes sense on that front that it'd be like, okay, he doesn't like traitors. Fair call. But it also has more to do with like the final part of like the exam mystery, which I will explain once this mission is over, because that's when it actually is brought fully to light. It kind of has to do with the fact that I have compared the capabilities of the exam system to a new type piloting a mobile suit. It's kind of fucked.
Have you seen Witch from Mercury, by the way?
I have not. I'm basically waiting for like the full series to be done because I get the feeling that like it'll by and large be something that I think is up my alley. I just kind of want to wait until all the episodes for like that story are done and I can be sure that, you know, it doesn't fuck itself up in the last act, or worst, fuck itself up immediately on the second season, considering that's kind of been a problem with Gundam series ever since they went to that model. I mean, no sensible person likes 00 Season 2. And I remember hearing people talk praises about Iron-Blooded Orphans until that second season rolled around.
Right. Well, anything could happen in Season 2 of Witch from Mercury.
Okay.
I hope it's good, because I bought the model kit.
Well, their advertising worked.
Yeah.
And people like to like talk shit about old Super Robot shows as if they were just toy commercials. Fucking losers. Buying all their like goof custom model kits or whatever because they think they're so special for liking 8th MS team.
This guy's just kicking you. He's just running at you and kicking you.
Not only that, but I can't lock on to him. That's the weirdest part. Is like... And props to him for being dedicated, I guess. Yeah. And even worse, this is kind of a maze, and we don't have a map to work with, so... Yeah.
Just find the corridors where you haven't killed everyone yet.
Something like that. Or worse comes to worse, you know, do the old standby whenever, like, you're going through an actual maze. Just hug the right wall and keep following it. Even if it looks like it's looping you back around, it eventually, with the way it's all connected, has to, like, end up, like, leading you to an exit.
Unless you start on a bit that... Actually, that's the point.
Yeah. I was about to assume that you were going to say, unless it's the back rooms.
Well, I was thinking if you start doing that not from the start, then you might loop around.
Yeah.
If it's from the entrance, yeah. I've used that trick before. I've just always assumed that it could fail.
Yeah.
Under certain conditions.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, like, I do agree. It is one of those tricks where when you hear it and you think about it initially, you start to think, there has to be an exception. There has to be a maze design that completely breaks that. But then you get more into it and you realize, yeah, no, it's actually, it's a rule that's fairly consistent. And there we go. We made it through that maze in, like, just the back passages of the colony. And behind this door is the real truth about Exam.
Dun dun dun.
Which I think, like, this next, like, screen and narration is supposed to ultimately explain. But yeah. Basically... The reason I kept making the new type comparisons in regards to the Exam's output is that it is entirely based on, like, the mental and wavelength patterns of a new type girl. We literally have the AI of a new type in our mobile suits. And the reason why it was done this way is because the scientist that developed the system, Dr. Schlust, like, he did it, like, basically out of fear that... because of the existence of new types and, like, the fact that they were capable of things that regular humans weren't, that they would be the ones that would, like, fight against and oppress humanity. Like, basically be the ones to destroy them and supplant as, like, the true human race. So he effectively created an AI system for use in mobile suits that would give people a fighting chance if new types ever became prominent enough as, like, a group of people to try and rebel.
But I'm guessing that girl didn't survive somehow.
He did not. And it's also because of the fact that it is based on her wavelengths and like her particular like psycho waves. That is why the exam system, when you push it to 100%, causes it to go berserk, and like it fucks up a pilot bad when that happens. It's like, it's basically the lingering flaw of the system that I think also on top of, like, this shows kind of how much of a bad person, like both morally and in terms of ideas, that Dr. Schluss was, that A, he did this because he assumed that new types would ultimately become like the most evil enemy to face humanity, but then realized, wait, no, Xeon wants me to complete this so that it becomes like unstoppable, because if I fix the core flaw of the system going berserk, nothing will stop Xeon. I need to get the word out about this, oh my god. And it's like, good job, now you're dead, and the last unit you had was stolen by a dude who not only hates you for being a traitorous bastard, but he also hates new types. Like, Nimbus, like, his character has a very deep-seated hatred against them. I forget, like, what sort of specific things are, like, the root of it. I don't think it's for, like, the same reasons that Schluss has. It might just be as simple as, like, being, like, the closest that the Gundam series can get to having anyone who is just, like, a horrible fucking racist.
I would have guessed that the girl who died would be his sister.
Yeah, but like I don't think that's the angle they went with. Otherwise I think that would have been like otherwise I think that would have had to like lead to them making his motivations a bit different, and also like just the revelation maybe just a tad bit too cliche for that. Like I think it works better in this case that, like, yeah, no, the reason Nimbus is so invested in this is because he is literally a hateful asshole. Like, I cannot think of a reason why, like, he could not have, I can't think of a scenario where he could have been, like, a nice, caring person beforehand. He probably had to, like, be someone that is just completely bought in to, like, the whole Xeon narrative. I mean, they are space Nazis after all, let's be fucking real. Not to imply that new types are somehow a horrible Jew analog in this series. That is a terrible suggestion. I can't believe I even made that assumption. But yeah, that's basically the whole situation. Like, Exam is powerful. It could be invincible if the issue of going berserk was solved. And now we got a responsibility to kind of like make sure that Nimbus doesn't go through with like not only tapping into the exam system on Unit 2 at 100%, but in the rare chance possibly even surviving that and being in total control, because that would be bad news.
I think they did pretty well with the skybox to make it look like you're inside the colony.
Yeah. Like, it's obviously, you can tell with just how it moves and how we noted that the Saturn is traditionally like a 2D machine. Like, it's obviously just a sprite layer. And yeah, like, kind of as you described. You look over there, you can kind of see, like, the end of the cylinder. It's, like, very decent, like, almost like panoramic, like, perspective when you're just doing, like, a full rotation like this. It's really well done. Anyway, the other Xeon forces are gone, so we just gotta, like, blow up these research towers, because this is where Exam was built, and we cannot let any of this get out at all. Stompy stompy.
At this point, are we planning to destroy all Exam technology, including our own robot, or are we just thinking we go prevent Xeon from getting their hands on it?
I'm pretty sure the primary impetus is just to prevent Xeon from making use of it.
Yeah.
Because again, like, they already have like the percentage limiters for Unit 3. I'm pretty sure like their main intent is to like try and like get the data they can from this, maybe develop a more safer system, or just or barring that, just restrict it entirely to Unit 3 and make sure that, like, they try and find some way to pass on the knowledge to other people that aren't new types or aren't piloting exam outfitted systems.
They have to wrap up the story in a way that accounts for the fact that this system is not mentioned anywhere else in the continuity.
The fact that, like, even with, like, the more advanced tech that comes in from, like, Zeta onward, that, like, nothing similar to exam shows up. But, I mean, at that point, it's like, yeah, it's kind of, like, not as necessary, especially when you got, like, new types being able to, like, channel, like, use cycle waves to control fin funnels and other orbital weapons with ease. I'm trying to remember, where the hell are the last of these targets, because... Oh, it's up to the, I think this way. Yep, okay. Okay, that was weird. Took a bit longer to finish that, but it's alright.
Still doing the time?
Yeah. Alright. And now, despite all that, we have one last loose end to clean up, and that's Nimbus. He's actually waiting for us outside the colony right now when our ship back home is in danger. So, who's ready for a proper space battle?
I want to see how they did it.
Yeah. I can say, it's definitely handled in a way that's interesting. You know, because again, like, it's not anything where it's like full 3D space sim levels of, like, maneuverability and freedom. But
I've seen this sort of thing be very obviously just a 2D plane that you're moving around.
The main difference, I think, as you'll find, is that they actually make it so that, yeah, it's effectively still a lateral fight, but imagine a game like where it's switching lanes, but instead of the lanes being horizontal, it's more like you're switching across vertical planes. So you're basically shifting between, like, lower altitude and higher altitude. And it's more like, yeah, it's set in stone, like, you don't get granular control over it, but it's just enough difference in space to, like, make the battle, like, feel as dynamic as it needs to for a duel between mobile suits in space. And for this fight, we're also equipped with a beam rifle now, proper. We have fully completed our Gundam transformation, as it were.
Yeah.
This is going to be a bit of a tricky one, though, because Unit 2 can output exam to 100%, and we're still stuck to 50. Kind of a handicap, but we'll manage. So yeah, if you just press jump, you go between upper or lower planes. Go. Yeah, look at that. Look at those, like, beam rifle shots curve. That's good. Come on.
The way the colony is above you and takes up so much of the... It feels really close in.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with all, like, the sort of, like, containers and debris that are, like, along the underside as well. It's like, again, they manage just enough details to sell you the space without cluttering it too much that it affects performance. You know? Come on. Okay. And this is basically what the whole fight is. As far as I can tell, there's, like, no mid-fight gimmick where, like, things change. You're just showing this racist asshole that you can still pilot better than him, even if you're using a system that's at 50% output. Okay. That's it for, like, how technically solid this game is. I mean, like, you can obviously tell the kind of where like the cutoff is in the distance when, like, enemies will just like pop out of
Yeah,
of
the pop
rendering
in
and
is
pop in.
quite noticeable. Mm.
Yeah, it's always shorter than like your lock-on range. Which, for
So
what it's worth, I want to say lock-on range is technically infinite.
I imagine they're using some other technique for the ground or ceiling here to draw an infinite plane.
It's more than likely just using BDP2, because that always seemed to be like a go-to for like Japanese devs that understood how to like work around the Saturn's bullshit, where like that was just like an entirely separate like video processing video process that had its own rules compared to BDP1, where you could layer up a bunch of different sprites. And I know that's where you could have like instances where like I think I mentioned this before, Panzer Dragoon games use it for like rendering the floor in those, and doing it that way where it's just a giant sprite that is scaled and rotated is less taxing than trying to make it a bunch of separate polygons. So come on, do my best to focus, although he's very good at dodging the shots. Damn it. Yeah, it's obviously been a while since I've dealt with this fight. Ah, shit. I can get this, though. Again, this is the final mission. We can get this done.
I believe in you.
I can do the thing. Yeah, it's the sort of thing where it's just like, it's cool that you have the beam rifle. I do kind of wish it was like ultimately like a lot faster and like it actually connecting to its targets, because Unit 2 moves so damn fast.
Well, the fact that you don't have ground building and so on, the sense of speed is a bit harder to feel. To your reference point.
Yep, let's go. Yeah, not as much talking for this part as you might expect. Like, we'll finally kind of explain like how the story ends once I kill this bastard, and we'll even see kind of like what ending I get based on just kind of how my mission rankings have been going. Okay, no, I think okay, now I'm starting to get the shots a bit more.
Yeah.
It really is just more of like waiting and seeing. Never underestimate like the head Vulcans as far as just like constant pressure, even if it comes off more as an annoyance for the enemy, because it's like you're basically peppering me with beans or like some kind of equivalent. There it is.
There we go.
Suck it. You new type racist. Oh. Well, we're both dead.
I'm taking you with me.
But hey, that means no more exam systems. And that's it. Now I'm looking at like I've been looking at like the synopsis for the Blue Destiny this entire time. And it does have like a list of what all like different ending permeations happen based on like kind of your overall rank up to that point. We were on the worst
part, right?
Yeah, we were on like the more bad end of the spectrum in all honesty. Depending on how it was. I want to say it's the So I think, like, the absolute worst ending you can get is where Nimbus self-destructs and takes you with him, thus killing you, and then, like, your support team on their ship also die in the process. The second worst ending is they both still explode. Use Fate is not recorded, but your support team are implied to have survived. And then after that, like, in sequential, like, better order, looking down, like, at the bullet point, though Use Fate was not recorded in the official records, Philip stated that he saw someone who seemed to be you on Earth after the end of the war. And then after that, you miraculously survives the explosion and participated in the Battle of Abao Q with Philip and Simona, who were, like, your support characters, and would stay in the Federation forces and only retire from military services after he was wounded during the Grips War. Which, again, these are all, like, specific terms that, like, if anyone is, for anyone that is very familiar and intimate with, like, the background lore of Gundam, like, they'll know what those are.
Hmm.
And then there's another where, like, it extends from that, where instead of retiring during the Grips War, you continues his service and then retires after the second Neo-Zeon War. Which, that one is literally the event of Char's counterattack. Which, oh god, I'm actually realizing now, like, noticing where that's from, it suddenly makes a lot more sense. Because there is a game, there's another Gundam game that came out much, much later after this, and is in fact going to be on the list. But I might as well give you, like, an idea of what that was before, like, eventually getting to it months later. It was called Mobile Suit Gundam Side Stories: The Missing Link. The idea behind it... Oh yeah, here it is actually kind of explaining it. It's, and also because, yeah, like, this was a Japan-only game, and you know how, like, some letters kind of take the same role as others. Avao Ku, it's supposed to be Abao Q, or something like that. Yeah, just kind of explaining what happened in the wake of like, the major battle. After this war, the incident on the exam system was completely erased from the official record, just so it would not conflict with Zeta or anything afterwards. The end.
The end.
But yeah, The Missing Link. What that was is that was a game that was designed as kind of basically a huge send-up to the entire, like, side stories line of Gundam games. Because there's this, there's Rise from the Ashes, there's also, like, a couple of PS2 games that are part of that, like Lost War Chronicle and Zeonic Front. And Missing Link, like, that game was primarily made up of, like, a new side story that took place within this same general, like, time period of the 1-year war. But it also had, like, recreations of pivotal moments from the different side story games, including the Blue Destiny. And like, I played through that, like, months ago, you know, to determine if it was interesting enough to put on my list for this stream series, and it was. And I remember a notable, like, scene that played after completing the Blue Destiny mini-campaign in that game, where it shows the events of Char's counterattack during, like, the Axis Colony drop. And now I realize, after looking up, like, clicking on the links in this plot synopsis and realizing what the second Neo-Zeon War referred to, yeah, he was there. The record didn't state it, but he was fucking there. Oh, there's also one extra thing that unlocks with this. Unlike the main game, I cannot guarantee I'll be able to beat this, but it's an amusing thing nonetheless. We have unlocked a simulator where, basically, like, the plot setup for this is, Yu Kajima gets asked, hey, do you ever know about Amuro Ray? You know, the guy that, like, did all that important stuff in the 1-year war with White Base and all that? Hey, I just put together a combat simulation where you can put your skills against the RX-782 Gundam as piloted by Amuro. Want to give it a shot? Guess what? It goes as bad as you expect it to. It's supposedly beatable, but God forbid am I ever gonna find out how. This is the ultimate thing to kind of hammer in the whole concept that side story Gundam games are built on, which is you are not a new type. You are not piloting a for real ass Gundam. You can still do cool things, but you're never gonna be as close to the ideal as this. It's fucking hilarious, though, that they put it in. And they even, I think, repeated that as the tradition in Rise from the Ashes. I think there's, a bonus mission you can do where you actually do get pitted against Amuro Ray. And it says it's as terrifying there as it is here.
Great.
We got a model viewer as well.
Nice.
Yeah, good old Zaku, the Dom, which, okay, yeah, that makes sense. For some reason, I think the reason why I initially did not realize this was a Dom is because I normally associated their color scheme with purple. I forgot that, that is the same silhouette that, just the specific units in here were colored black instead. Ifri Kai. Still, a cool design. It's funny how,
a bash.
A little bit, yeah. Because it's the sort of thing where it's with my limited knowledge, I remember when I first saw it, it was oh, okay, this is a fancier, goof. But no, it has, its own name. It has its own loadout. It fights differently. Goof custom, it ain't. Yeah, Gelgoog. Hygog. These things are the fucking worst. Zugok. My mind almost wanted to say it as Zakok, but whatever. And then on the right here... Yeah. I love how this one is just called Ball.
I have a Gundam Ball model kit. It's one of my favorites.
Wow, Amuro's terrifying. I'm reminded of that gif where it's a bunch of OG Zaku's bombarding the Gundam in the city, only for him to zoom in from the side and kill them all. Yeah, that is the Amuro / main leading Gundam experience. They're always going to be more powerful than you could ever imagine. That was the GM command, which is what we piloted throughout the entirety of episode 1. Got the Blue Destiny 2. And then, of course, well, yeah, that was the 1. This is the 2, which just looks like, a regular Gundam, but with the Ifrit Kai's color scheme. Blue everything, red shoulders. Which, red shoulders, my Votom's addled brain always associates that with, yeah, that means it's a serious badass. The Red Shoulders are quite a thing if you ever watch Votoms. They're an infamous group. I've seen
Votoms Season 1 a long time ago.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's the BD3, which is the most Gundam-looking thing ever.
It's just a Gundam, yeah.
Yeah, and, these units, pretty much all the exam units, you can, in Gundam games past this point, you can still find some where it's yeah, no, these are unlockable. They may not have gotten, any play in, a major anime series. But, the impact of this game and the significance of it in, kind of emphasizing the direction that, Gundam games should strive for. You could eventually see these show up in, various games, I guess the most latest one, if you want, an example, I was pleased to see this, actually, when, Gundam Battle Operation 2 was, running its network test on PC. The second network test where it actually worked. And, they basically had, a bunch of units that you could buy, immediately because, they weren't going to tie, your account progress to a beta while they still did any network adjustments or whatnot. It was basically, a demo. And you could buy, the Blue Destiny Unit 3 there. So it's yeah. like, I didn't get to play with those, like, in-game outside of the training missions to see if the exam system was something that was replicated in there. Because I know, like, in The Missing Link, you can play as these units, and the exam system is absolutely in. It works as you expect it to. And there's even, like, another, like, Gundam game, like, on PSP, which was by ArtDink, who did, like, the various Macross games for the system as well, that also have, like, the Blue Destiny units in there. So yeah, hopefully that imparts on people enough that, like, oh yeah, there is such a good thing as good Gundam games. Especially this early on in, like, the time frame of 1996 to 1997. Because these were released over the course of several months.
And what were the Gundam games before this?
Like, I always forget specifically.
There were, like, tactics ones, right? There were some tactics games where you just move units on a grid and...
Yeah, but the thing is, even then, I don't really hear that many people talk about it, because I assume that, like, as far as, like, the standards of tactics games go, it probably wasn't doing anything remarkable in the same way that other more notable, like, strategy RPGs or tactics games usually were able to pull off, you know? Like, if you wanted the strategy RPG where you, like, piloted Mecha, like, from that time period, especially on, say, Super Famicom, you literally had front mission.
Yeah.
But this was one where it's like, you know, this is post-Virtual On. VO showed that there was a way to, like, make good on the fantasy of piloting a mecha in a 3D gaming environment. And we started to see more and more people, like, get in on it with, like, their own systems and ideas, including Bandai actually just get together, like, the right group of people within them, like, in their own specific dev studio to put this thing together. And would eventually go on to, you know, do Rise from the Ashes, work on other Gundam games afterwards. Some not as good as this. Some especially bad. In fact, I think it should go without saying that, like, I think a major reason for why plenty of people may not think that there were ever any good Gundam games to begin with is because it's from the perspective of people that weren't importing games. So whenever they got a game localized in, like, the West, more often than not, it was Bandai choosing the worst one to go with.
Right.
Like an example, I can at least explain this one because it's not on the list just because I ran out of room. But one of the PS2 Gundam games called Lost Warrior Chronicle is a pretty solid one. But there was a game before it called Journey to Jaburo. And that was one where, like, it was a game made before Lost War Chronicle and was, like, way less refined, was kind of mediocre. But that was the one where Bandai decided that that should be localized. It got middling reviews as it expected, and then they simply decided to pass on Lost War Chronicle, even though it is legit a better game in every respect. And there's even a worse example of this when it comes to PS3. Not sure about how much you remember as far as, like, what the era around the PS3 was like as far as, like, its launch window games, and kind of how dire some of that looked. There was a Gundam game at launch called Crossfire.
I might have seen friends play it, because at the time I was living with some Gundam fans, and I saw them play a lot of PS2 and PS3 Gundam games.
Could have had Mario's Cappy hat on a mech. Nintendo are cowards. Oh god, yes, yes! Oh man. This is all the more reason why, like, the fact we don't have a Mario Odyssey 2 is frustrating as hell. They could have expanded on that so much. But yeah, with, like, Gundam on PS3, like, Crossfire was, like, a dreadfully made game. Like, absolutely bad technical, like, performance and not that good mechanics. And it was one of the last localized Gundam games that, like, and because of its failure, kind of contributed to that brief period of time where it felt like Bandai just seemed to recede entirely from, like, most any sort of, like, licensing of Gundam outside Japan. Because they had success with Gundam Wing and had no idea how to, like, genuinely, like, keep that success going without trying to, like, still tap into, like, Wing nostalgia or, like, some other shit that kind of sells the other potentially better products short. And because of that, they also missed out on like a much more improved Gundam game on PS3 called Gundam Senki 0081, which that one's on the list. That'll be happening several months later. And that is, I think, as fantastic as this game is, I emphasize that it's the first good Gundam game for a reason. Senki 0081 might be my favorite Gundam game. At least as far as like mechanics and the fact that I can play it single player, and it's not like any of like the current Gundam games that we have now where like they're all just double down on the multiplayer offering, whether it's like versus, like extreme versus, or battle operation, or evolution, I guess, even though I'm reluctant to call that a mecha game because that's really just a Gundam skin on top of Overwatch.
Yeah.
Like, I get why people were excited, but it always frustrates me every time when, like, I see people, like try and, like, prop up that sort of thing when it's like, no, this isn't real mecha. Mecha is not limited to being an aesthetic. It is a genuine game genre. Hence why, like, I have, these sort of games on the list and not putting on, like, more recognizable picks like Titanfall. Which, you know what? I say is fair, if only because Respawn were dumb as hell back in the day for trying to pull the whole Titans aren't mecha thing, like, over people, saying that, like, it's not a, like, this, like, not to describe the Titans in there as mecha. And I'm like, fuck you, it is mecha. Like, you're literally part of the same genre. What is this, like, fake exceptionalism bullshit you're doing? And then it turned to prove itself true anyway, because it's like, oh yeah, the Titans don't feel like mecha. They just feel like size-scaled up first-person shooter player models. I mean, they have a dash instead of a jump, but that barely counts as far as differences. Plus, playing as a pilot was always so much more fun. The on-foot stuff was incredible in those games. Okay.
Played the single-player campaign of the second game.
Yeah, that campaign was a fun ride. It was definitely the most fun I had with, like, that style of, like, quote, modern shooter design.
Yeah.
Especially when these days I'm like, I'd rather wait for either, like, an honest-to-God boomer shooter or something more in the vein of just, like, a Doom Eternal or Ultra Kill, Give me the action FPS. That's the new wave.
It's a great time to be into boomer shooters. There's a whole bunch of them coming out.
Yeah. So, this Gundam game's wrapped up. Next week, which again will be, not this coming Saturday, but the next one. I know it's kind of might be confusing for people like watching every time I have to emphasize that, like, it's not always on the same day of the week, just the same time frame. But next time,
blame me.
well, yeah. I'm willing to accept it though, just because, like you're still a great person. You got like a fun appreciation for giant robots, and I'm always glad to like share it with more people I know.
Thank you. No, this is a lot of fun. Like having the historical context and everything, and seeing some games I hadn't seen before. It's really cool. I'm glad you're doing this project.
Yeah, and it's gonna get more in depth and more niche and more weird as time goes on, for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, like next week, the game we'll be playing is Assault Suit Leynos 2. Yeah, we skipped the first Leynos because I didn't think it was good and just went straight to Valken. But they did make a sequel on the Saturn, and it's basically the last hurrah for, like, 2D sprite-based mecha games for a long-ass time. It was also Japan only, which will likely explain why most people don't even know it exists.
But there's a lot of games in that franchise, right?
There are, but, like, the first two games, like, original Leynos and Valken, were, like, the only ones that got localized. And they're more well-known because, like, by, like, their international names, People know Leynos as Target Earth, and people know Valken as Cybernator.
Yeah, I had Cybernator.
Yeah, and, like, Valken / Cybernator, that was a good-ass game. Leynos 2, as you'll find, it takes after Valken, I think, a lot more than Leynos, but it also goes so much more crazy with mechanics. It's, and also hard. Alright. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Yeah.
This has definitely been the longest episode yet. Well, with the, literally playing through 3 micro games in one stream, but whatever, it's doable. Yeah. Just don't expect this kind of thing for every game. I can't guarantee to beat every single Armored Core game I want in under 2 hours. It's just not possible sometimes. But thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, we'll definitely discuss afterwards, like, I guess, like, figuring out, like, what available slots for future games look like you might be up for. Everyone else at home, though, like, have a good rest of the day or night, obviously. I know there's some of you European folks watching. I can tell. Have a good one. Peace.
Game over.